When it comes to cryptocurrency, anything can affect the volatility of an investment. From the ramblings of a billionaire techno nerd to the fall of mining operations halfway across the globe. But what about the trading operations of Mr. Goxx and China's eventual banning of the investment scheme? Well, if you've been wondering how these latest headlines are about to affect the market, stay right where you are, as we're about to jump right into it. Number 1, Mr. Goxx is outperforming everyone on the market right now. First up on the agenda is an investment story that may surprise you. It revolves around the trading operations of a little guy by the name of Mr. Goxx, who over the last few months has made an absolute killing on the crypto exchange. In fact, his statistics suggest that he is outperforming the majority of investors involved in the buying, selling, and holding of altcoins. But what really has investors scratching their heads is how Mr. Goxx makes his decisions on a daily basis. You see, Mr. Goxx isn't a man. He's a hamster. And as of right now, his lifetime performance on the market is up by around 20%. In other words, a furry little rodent has made a name for himself by beating out the majority of professional traders and funds, showing once and for all there is no rhyme or rhythm when it comes to the cryptocurrency exchange. But how does Mr. Goxx trade when he doesn't have opposable thumbs? Well, it's actually quite simple. You see, the wealthy rodent actually has a miniature office attached to his cage, which he has fitted with some of the greatest advancements in hamster trading. How does this trading office work? First off, this office comes complete with a large running wheel and 2 tunnels marked buy and sell. As soon as Mr. Goxx steps into the office, a notification pops up on Twitter, which informs his followers that a Twitch stream is about to start. He then heads straight for the so-called intention wheel, which he runs on until he is tired or bored. When the wheel stops moving, an electric counter does exactly the same, which has been connected to a list of cryptos that are available to buy and sell. This is essentially how Mr. Goxx chooses his altcoin of the day. Once this crypto has been selected, the little genius heads off in the direction of the tunnels. When he runs through the buy tunnel, his owners go on to buy the cryptocurrency that has been selected by the intention wheel. And when he runs through the sell tunnel, the owners do the exact opposite. Funny enough, it's this ridiculous strategy that has led to Mr. Goxx becoming one of the most popular crypto investors in the world, making other professionals on the market yell out in confusion. Who are the mysterious Germans behind Mr. Goxx? But it's not just Mr. Goxx that has been making headlines. The men behind the tiny investor have also made waves by describing their reasoning behind investing based on the actions of their furry little friend. The 2 men, who are both based in Germany, made professional crypto investors scream in frustration when they mentioned how they have zero faith in the altcoin exchange. According to them, the younger generation sees no option in today's world other than gambling their savings away on the cryptocurrency exchange and hoping that they have made the correct decision somewhere down the line. But since not even professional investors know how to predict the volatility of the market, it's a risk that isn't worth taking. To prove this, they decided to set up the Twitch channel for Mr. Goxx and show that even a hamster could make a killing on the exchange by simply choosing to buy and sell altcoins at will. Even the name of the rodent is a nod to the disastrous nature of the crypto exchange. It sounds quite similar to Mt. Goxx, a company that was once considered to be the biggest altcoin exchange in the world, but ended up filing for bankruptcy after the theft of thousands of bitcoins. Have the Germans made their point? Since Mr. Goxx is currently up by 20% when it comes to his lifetime performance on the market, it looks like the German men have somewhat made their point. Although some traders have become motivated by the success of Mr. Goxx throwing professional advice away and instead choosing to invest based on instinct. Not exactly the lesson that was supposed to be taken from this little experiment, and funnily enough, it's not just professional crypto investors that Mr. Goxx has been beating over the last few months. The Germans have actually shown that the same principles suggested about cryptocurrency can be shown to be true for the stock exchange, which many consider to be less volatile than the buying and selling of altcoins. But Mr. Goxx has proven that he can also beat out billionaire dollar investment companies such as Berkshire Hathaway, which is owned by the likes of Warren Buffett. In other words, it's not just an investment investment in the cryptocurrency exchange that can be considered to be an example, but one in the stock exchange as well. Not like this is news or anything, but it's great to see just how successful Mr. Goxx has been at making this point. Should we be investing based on the actions of Mr. Goxx? There is one thing that the mysterious duo behind the cutesy hamster stress though. The decisions that Mr. Goxx makes on a daily basis should by no means be construed as investment advice. Why someone would actually base their futures on the advice of a hamster, regardless of how successful he is, astounds us. But the cryptocurrency space can be pretty strange. And if you thought that this story was about to die down, think again, as the minds behind Mr. Goxx have mentioned how they're thinking about expanding operations in the days to come. When talking about the future of Mr. Goxx, they have the following to say. We have many features in mind that would make the whole thing much more fun to watch and would mean even more space for Mr. Goxx to play around in. As to how the success of Mr. Goxx has influenced the crypto market, it's really hard to say. While some investors have been driven away by something so stupid succeeding over and above professional advice, others have been motivated to risk it all themselves. Either way, we're just happy that cryptocurrency finally has a wholesome character behind it. Number 2, why has China been in the news in connection with cryptocurrency? Our next headline is far less cheery than the last though, and actually has to do with the decision of China's central bank to make all cryptos illegal in the country. Especially, this means that altcoins like Ethereum and Bitcoin have been effectively banned from the Chinese market, with the announcement further stating that this decision was made to protect the assets of Chinese citizens. And while we agree that the volatility of the cryptocurrency exchange can seriously endanger the assets of a trader, this is a risk that the investor has measured and agreed to participate in. And since China is considered to be one of the world's largest altcoin markets, you can imagine just how much trouble this decision has caused across the globe. You see, it's not just that Chinese citizens are no longer able to buy and sell their digital assets in an effort to raise their net worth. Citizens are no longer allowed to hold cryptocurrencies at all, causing many to question what is going to happen to their lucrative financial investments in the days to come. This decision didn't come out of nowhere though. The past behind the decision. You see, the trading of cryptocurrencies has actually been banned in the country since 2019, but citizens were able to find a way around this law by moving their business over to online exchanges. That's how the majority of the world trades crypto after all. But in May of this year, the various financial institutions of the Chinese state informed investors that they would have no protection if they didn't get out of the exchange soon, which has been blamed for easing money laundering operations and robbing citizens of electricity through unlawful Bitcoin mining operations. Most Chinese investors didn't heed the government's warning though, especially considering how the last decision made wasn't exactly an enforceable one. But then in June of this year, the government went on to inform Chinese banks that they were no longer allowed to facilitate crypto transactions, making the processing of these transactions so much more difficult. Mining operations were also banned, whether they were considered to be lawful or not. With more than enough of a warning period, the government have now decided to ban even the holding of cryptocurrencies. And according to reports, the government is thinking of reimbursing citizens for these investments in an attempt to eradicate all volatility on the Chinese market. That being said, nothing has been clarified just yet about how much they are willing to pay investors who now have frozen digital assets. This is something that only time will tell. And there you have it, some of the craziest crypto headlines around at the moment. Will you be following Mr. Goxx in the days to come? And what do you think about China's decision? Feel free to let us know in the comment section down below.